Guys, welcome to Magic Monday, episode 17,
Morning.
week 17. I'm Davey
And I'm Tracy.
from daveyandtracy.com, and welcome to Magic Monday. Magic Monday is our weekly podcast where we explore connecting to nature for mental, emotional, spiritual healing, and we talk about nature magic and lunar wisdom and connecting to moon phases and the energies of nature, as well as tarot and oracle cards.
Yeah, so we kind of combine them all, as Davey mentioned, connecting to nature for mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. This is something that these are rituals that have helped us, and we are hoping that they will also help you. So we kind of connect every single Monday, bring you some rituals that you can take throughout the week, and hopefully connect you guys to nature and a little more joy throughout your week.
Yep. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning,
Thanks
Sarah.
for joining us. All right. So I don't have any special announcements right now. Tracy and I are working on a lot of things under the, behind the scenes, like we have been, and I think we talked a little bit about that last week or a couple of weeks ago. So we'll just keep you updated as things keep moving along here. Shall we get started?
I guess, yeah. We don't really, like I said, we don't make different announcements for the first time in a while. So,
all right.
You want to start the? All right. So, take 3 deep breaths in. All right. So, if you have any sort of smudge stick or sage or incense, go ahead and light it now.
Essential oil.
If you don't, just metaphorically allow the smoke to just take any sort of negativity away. Anything negative this morning that's happened already, just allow the smoke to just wash it away.
And feel free to share what you're grateful for. Type it, if you're watching this live, type it in the chat box. If you are watching the recording, post a comment. Tracy and I do go back and check the comments. So this is a very important part of our daily practice, and it's an important part of Magic Monday is just posting what you're, putting what you're grateful for out there. It's a really good energy booster. So do you want to start? What are you grateful for?
So I'm grateful. Just after this, we are going to create a schedule. And I know it sounds a little strange, but Dave and I, a good friend of ours mentioned many years ago about creating sort of a balance in life, and part of it is that being business owners, we create a work schedule, but then we don't create a life schedule, and then the life schedule is what always gets everything in balance. And so we've done that for many years, and we found that when we schedule everything between like having time with our son to doing laundry, to when chores get done, to when work gets done, everything is in balance and harmony. And so it's been a little off this past couple of weeks, and we're definitely feeling off. So I'm grateful. Today's the day we're going to get our schedule and create that balance again.
Yep.
You look like you're looking at
Oh
something.
no, it's a laptop. I'm like looking at the frame, like, what is this thing here?
Okay, I could see you're like really intently focusing.
No, I'm like, there's no clutter back here. There's nothing here. No, it's my laptop.
Okay.
Okay. I'm grateful for. Well, this is gonna sound strange because we've had a lot of hot weather lately, and then it kind of cooled off a little bit, and we have some hot weather coming up. And I'm grateful for the warm weather we're going to have this week because the pool's going to be warmer. And I don't know how much longer that we're going to be able to get in that pool, but I'm happy for crystal clear pool water and a few days of warm temperatures that should warm it up so I can enjoy the pool a little bit more. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the catnip that I just harvested. And it's just actually
we have drying
herbs all over the house. We're running out of places to put it, so it's hanging right off the tripod, the little camera bracket.
This is the catnip.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make some catnip tea with that. Yeah, I'm grateful for all the herbs.
Oh,
Sarah,
it's tomato harvest.
yeah, well, we harvested some zucchini and yellow squash and tomatoes. We got little tiny pumpkins and watermelons growing. Big,
Cucumber.
massive, 12-inch long cucumber.
Yeah, I think we screwed up on something on the cucumber. It's still growing.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not sure that cucumber. I don't know what
Yeah.
it's doing because it's like turning yellow now. So I don't know. Sarah said, "I'm grateful for a relaxing vacation, being able to see family that we haven't seen since January. I'm grateful for 2 giant zucchini and lots of little tomatoes growing and no more hornworms." Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, I saw the zucchini.
hey, we've taken probably like what? How many tomatoes? 10 or so.
10.
And
Yeah.
there's a ton growing. But yeah, those are pretty big zucchinis. I saw your pictures yesterday, Sarah. And it's funny with the zucchinis too, because sometimes you look at them every day, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, there's like this giant zucchini growing. Like you didn't even see it; it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Do you want to do the lunar forecast?
Yeah. So let's jump over to Lunar Wisdom. So tomorrow we're going to be in a third quarter moon in the sign of Taurus. So right now the moon's in Taurus, and it is a waning moon. So tomorrow we're going to be in that first quarter. So, or not first quarter, third quarter. So we're about a week away from the new moon. So third quarter moons are associated with clearing space. Like I like to see it as a time to clear space so you can receive, basically preparing yourself for the new moon so that you can start with that blank slate. The last quarter moon is, if I say first quarter, I mean last quarter. So the last quarter moon is associated with, it corresponds with the fall equinox in the fall season. So it's a time I see it as a time to kind of clear space so that you can prepare for the harvest. You need places to put what you want to attract into your life, and you're going to really work on that coming into the new moon in the next moon cycle. So you need to take the time this week to clear space. It's also associated with setting boundaries. Both the first quarter and the last quarter moon could be associated with balance and setting boundaries. And so it would be a good thing to focus on today and tomorrow, where in your life you need to set boundaries.
Which is kind of what we talked about, actually.
Yeah.
Fits perfectly, is creating that balance that we're doing with a schedule for our entire life, but we're including things like time with our son, which sounds very strange, but we're all working from home. We're home, he's home, everybody's home. And when you're home, it can be very easy. I was up 3 hours this morning, and I feel like I was a waste of time. And so, having time, like this is my time with my child, you can unconnect to everything else and just be like, nope, this is my time with them. And then laundry time and then work time and fun time, and it's creating that balance and creating boundaries of being able to say, no, I can't do this task because right now this is my time with my family, or whatever the task is.
And being in the sign of Taurus, Taurus is associated with security, pleasure, and getting things done. So it's kind of cool because, I see security and pleasure as kind of like work and play. Mm-hmm. So, it's requiring us to balance that and set boundaries around that so that we have time for work and we have time for play, we have time for security and time for pleasure. It's also associated with getting things done. So I think today and tomorrow are the perfect time for us to create a schedule that helps to balance our work life and our family life, and make sure that we schedule downtime as well as hustle time, and just really kind of, clearing things off our plate that is interfering with that kind of balance and that schedule. So as we move into the week, Wednesday through Friday, we're in a waning moon in the sign of Gemini. So again, waning moon is associated with that kind of release and clearing space. Gemini is associated with communication. So the work that you do today and tomorrow for the first quarter or the last quarter moon, if you're working on that kind of balance and setting boundaries, and if you're doing what Tracy and I are doing with creating a schedule or any kind of change or shift or clearing space you need to do, then it's time to communicate that. You need to communicate those boundaries and what you're putting in place for the next week. You need to communicate that with the people you live with. or with your coworkers or your boss or whoever it is you need to communicate with. You need to, it's a good time to make sure you communicate what you need. Make sure you're communicating what you need.
Right.
Make sure that there isn't any resentment being bred because there is a lack of communication. So that's something very important to focus on through the rest of this week. And then this weekend, oh, and one thing with communication, when Tracy and I create this schedule, we're actually going to incorporate our son into it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to, our instinct is just to create a schedule and then impose it. Or just assume that we often forget. I know I'm guilty of this. I forget that our kid, he's 6 years old. He'll be 7 next month. And I kind of forget to include him in the decision making and planning process because I'm like, Tracy and I will create a schedule or something, and we're like, all right, here's the schedule. And so that's something that we're going to work on. It's a good time with the Gemini moon is, work on communicating, not only communicating with him, but bringing him into, listening to him and what he needs and giving him a say and input into our schedule as well.
Right.
And making sure that this schedule that we're creating isn't just for us or created by us, he's part of it. So I think that would also help with the balance too. And then moving into the weekend, we're in a waning crescent or balsamic moon in the sign of Cancer. So the balsamic moon is a time to take a breath, do a little self-care, and take some time to recuperate and recharge. I call it the self-care phase of the moon. Right before you get to the new moon. So the sign of Cancer is associated with connecting with feelings in home and domestic life. So this weekend would be a good time to just kind of take a little time out, spruce up your sacred space in your home, and just do some meditating, do some yoga, do some kind of self-care tarot or oracle card spread. Just spend a little time this weekend recharging your batteries and taking a little breath, breathe out,
Yeah, unplug for a little bit.
Right. And then we'll be in the new moon. Next week, we're moving into a new moon in Leo. So we'll talk about that next week.
All right.
Wait, is that new moon in Leo? Yeah. Okay. So.
Jen's here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Jen. I'm like, it's her husband's birthday, so happy birthday to Craig. We'll call you guys later.
All right, so that was the lunar forecast for the week.
Shuffle these, right?
I did, yes. Every week. You ask me if I shuffle them every week, I say yes. What do we got?
Oh, we have a new one.
Oh, that's really interesting because we actually saw one last week.
This is true. Racoon, Inventor. Decide on what you want, what you really want. You have the ingenuity to claim it. Avoid being the trickster and practice integrity. You have many roles and can juggle them well. Sorry, it's very cursive. Interesting. Yeah, as Davey said, we actually saw a raccoon the other day.
So this goes along with what we were just talking about deciding what you really want. That is part of working through the third quarter moon, especially in Taurus. But also, you have many roles and can juggle them well, which is something that Tracy and I are working on with the schedule that we're talking about creating. Because, we have a lot on our plate. Like everyone else, we have a lot on our plate. And it can feel very overwhelming. You feel like you're running yourself ragged trying to juggle everything. So this is just a reminder that we have the ingenuity to create
that balance.
Right.
You can juggle everything because it is true. I spent a lot of time this morning wasted. I did get some productive stuff, but I spent a lot of time wasted. So, and that's something I've talked about to many people is how much, we all have the same 24-hour cycle in a day.
Really interesting about this card. Can you show them up close? Because I want to talk about more of kind of an intuitive feeling I get from looking at that card too. So if you notice above the raccoon's head, there's pine cone, and pine cones, and the pine trees generally symbolize like prosperity. Um, and then they're all looking at the butterfly,
This is true.
which I don't know the meaning of the butterfly off the top of my head, but intuitively I kind of see the butterfly as more of like a playful and pleasure. So I kind of see this very Taurus kind of energy on this card here, where you have three pine cones. You have like these prosperity. That's like the security, the getting things done, the future goals, and then you have the butterfly that is kind of like playful, pleasure, relaxing. And if you notice, all three of the raccoons are looking at the butterfly, almost like it's a reminder to balance that work and play. You kind of see the pine cones, three pine cones kind of hanging over their head, where it's kind of like you have all these things up in the air, but don't lose sight of the fun and the pleasure and the beauty in life. There's more than just work, work, work all the time. Also, there's three raccoons and there's three pine cones, so I kind of see that too as
There's enough
bringing
abundance.
everyone in to balance the workload as well.
It's interesting.
So yeah, I think this is a very apt card for this week in the first quarter or last quarter in Taurus. I gotta stop calling it a first quarter. All right, let's see what the Planet Wisdom gives us.
All of these decks, links to these decks are in the description.
So we have Bleeding Heart, and the keyword is independence.
I don't know if I've had Bleeding Heart.
No, I don't know. So it says Bleeding Heart helps you to recognize and strengthen the true source of your heart's power. It is impossible to sustain directing all your loving energy to external sources, or equally to rely on external sources to sustain you. Fill your strong, independent heart from within so that you may offer love even when brokenhearted. So this is definitely a weekend card for this weekend, when we're in that balsamic moon in the sign of Cancer. Connecting with your feelings, kind of checking in with your heart, and taking a time out to breathe so that you can kind of refill your reserves, not relying on external sources to recharge you. You kind of are responsible for creating your own happiness. Speaking of happiness, I watched a really interesting documentary this weekend, and I think it's called In Pursuit of Happiness or The Pursuit of Happiness, and it's basically these two guys that just filmed this documentary, and they went around the US and they interviewed people that were referred to them as like the happiest people. And it was a really interesting documentary. It's a combination of meeting different people who were just happy and lived their lives, and as well, and some of these people were like a cancer patient, someone who's like on the verge of homelessness, and they all found a way to live a happy life despite their circumstances. And they also interviewed like neuroscientists and other people that the experts that talk about this thing. So it was on Amazon Prime. So if you do have that, or if you have access to that documentary, I highly encourage you to look it up, because it's actually really interesting, and it kind of goes along with what Tracy and I talk about frequently. So yeah. And then let's see, the tarot card for the week. We have the Eight of Pentacles. Wait.
That's it.
Yes.
B plus the other ones.
Eight of Pentacles. And this card is definitely the card of hustle. This is like the make money card. If I could think of a card that is associated with work, that's the one. So that card definitely, I think the theme this week is that balance between work and play. So, this card is reminding you to, it's not a time to take a step back from work or put work on the back burner. It's not vacation time is time to, you need to uh,
Buckle down.
buckle down, double down on your efforts, make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to provide for yourself.
But don't forget pleasure. I think that's a big thing is that people, balancing this pleasure and play with getting work and being focused on both of them. Because I think a big thing that we talk about, especially with the happiness, is that we tend to, when we're doing one thing, we tend to be guilty because we're not doing the other thing. So when you're working, you're feeling guilty because you're not playing, and when you're playing, you're feeling guilty because you're not working. And actually, Davey said to me just before we got on here, he's like, you don't have time. You're spending so much time worrying, feeling guilty, that you're not enjoying either one of them. And it's true.
Right. So I would encourage you, like, while you're working this week, don't worry about all the things you're not doing, because that's not helping anything. Just, when you're working, focus on your work. And when you're playing, focus on your play. Kind of like the raccoons are, they're all three of them are looking at that butterfly, but they don't have one eye on the butterfly and one eye on the pine cones over their head. So, definitely, I would say the theme this week is, when you're at work, focus on work. When you're at play, focus on play. Don't let work go into play. Don't let play go into work. Set that boundary.
Boundaries. Communicate those boundaries is the big thing too.
Right, but make sure that you maintain a balance. So, good rituals for this week. Obviously journaling, but I definitely think that, check in with your schedule. Make sure that you are scheduling downtime.
Everything that's realistic in your life, like downtime, work, time with your family though, things that you don't necessarily feel you need to schedule, like especially right now, we're home, our child is home, I'm sure you guys have kids at home too if you have children, so schedule that family time, that time with your children that is uninterrupted.
Or time with each other, time with your spouse, because the thing is, what happens, and I know this is a problem with Tracy and I and other people who are self-employed, is that when you work from home and or you're self-employed, your work life bleeds into your family life, bleeds into your relationship, and it's just like all consuming. And there's no distinct boundaries. It's not like you go to an office, you're there for 8 hours, you come home, and then work's behind you and you have family time. When you work for yourself, you're always, when you're 100% in charge of your own income, that's always on your mind. So it can be really challenging to set those boundaries. But even people that work jobs, sometimes work comes home with you, and so
it's just creating those boundaries.
Right.
So I would recommend creating, everyone sit down. That is a ritual that I would take this week. It's sitting down and creating an actual. You don't have to schedule it for the minute or the hour. Be as scheduled as you want. But I think creating a schedule that's maybe flexible by the day, but has playtime, work time, time with family, time with your spouse, time by yourself.
And one thing that I like to do with crystals too, and you can do this with essential oils, but like 2 crystals that I use to help maintain balance is the satin spar. A lot of people call it selenite, satin spar. And if I'm like outside the home and have a stressful day at work or whatever, or even if you're working from a home office and you have a stressful day, afterwards hold it up to your heart, take a few deep breaths, and just, I like to picture that it's glowing white, and that white light is just drawing out that negativity and everything from my day, drawing it out, dissipating it out into the universe, and then I'm starting with a clean slate for home time. So you can do this to kind of separate your times, like after work, it almost creates like a boundary. Like you're like, okay, work's done, I'm fresh, I've cleansed, and now it's time for home and family life. You can also do that with black tourmaline if you've had a rough day, or if you're outside the home, or even in your home office and you've had kind of a busy, stressful day. Take that black tourmaline, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and then when you exhale, imagine that negativity or that stress is just exhaled into the black tourmaline, so that you're not then dragging that stress and baggage from the day into dinner time and family time or spouse time. So those are two things you can also do with crystals, and I do that all the time.
That's a good idea.
Um, Sarah says, I have a personal schedule that includes reading time for me because that is important to me. I've also had to schedule my exercise and stretching because that makes a huge difference for me. Yeah, I need to get back to scheduling reading time. I actually this weekend sat down and cracked open a book that I forgot I had, and like it just felt so good to just sit in a chair and read. And it's like, I mean, you can't do that for 6 hours straight, at least I can't, but it just even like having a half hour a day to read, you know, you can still read a lot of books in a half hour a day. So yeah, that's a good idea. And that's what I'm talking about. Tracy and I are like basically scheduling everything in, because we always think that like, oh, if we're going to create a schedule, it has to be a work schedule and chore schedule. But you also have to make sure you schedule the things that you enjoy doing as well. Otherwise,
they don't get done.
Exactly. All right, so let's do the ending meditation.
For all of today, I will love. For all of today, I will trust. For all of today, I will be true to myself. For all of today, I will give thanks for my many blessings. For all of today, I will be kind to my neighbor and every living thing. Take 3 deep breaths in.
All right, so thanks so much for joining us. We really love having you guys watching our videos. If you're watching live, be sure to comment, hit the like button. If you're, did I say live? If you're watching live, do that. If you're watching recording, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel. Tracy and I really appreciate you guys joining us.
Make sure you comment
Even
your gratitude.
if you watch the live, post your gratitude, and we will see you next week at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Have a great week, guys.